Hello, everybody. This is Jake with the Evolve Your Fitness podcast, and I'm here with Coach Greg Wood, who was recently inducted into the class of 26 Illinois High School Coaches Hall of Fame for his work with in Forston High School and Lawrenceville, and there's a couple schools in between there, I believe. Yeah, Coach, thanks for coming on.
Appreciate it, Jake. Really, it's awesome that you reach out and get a chance to do something like this. So.
Yeah, well, I love it. It's it's pretty awesome to when Tyler told me about it, I was excited about the idea of getting you on and talking about it. He said you were really excited about it.
That was one of the goals. In fact, I can remember that first year at Forston. And we kind of turned it that first year and beat Polo at the end of the year and won that conference championship. And I remember the assistant coaches, talking then, Coach Wood's going to be in the Hall of Fame someday. and at that point, I hadn't thought anything about that.
Mm-hmm.
But then you get to thinking about it and you think, well, that's kind of the ultimate goal. You get into the sport of football and coaching to help out the kids and things like that. And it's kind of cool to get a reward at the end of it all. And especially something like this that means so much.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Well, I guess let's go way back and talk about how we know each other.
Yes.
I guess I didn't even think about how long you've probably known me for, but I think you guys got here when I was in fourth grade, and yes,
that would have been about right.
Right, and I'm in the same grade as your oldest son, Tyler.
Right.
And we've been lifelong friends ever since then.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and
cool in itself.
Yeah. It's you've had a lot of moments where you've seen me, some good, some bad, like we talked about before we got on here.
Yes.
But and then also in that year that you came here, my brother was in your first year of football.
Yes.
Was part of that first team.
Yes.
And that would be 97, right?
Correct.
Yep.
Yes.
So
that was an awesome year. I mean, those kids just really had no idea, what was coming up in front of them. Yeah. And I'm not so sure they all bought in all at once, you know what I'm saying? But at some point they did. And they went on and had a tremendous season. And we were 6-3 that year, but, we ended up winning the conference that year. And, again, I refer to knocking off Polo at the end of the year. They were leading the conference. They were undefeated. They had been in the playoffs for, I don't know how many years in a row. And we hadn't had a lot of success against them. And we thrashed them pretty good there on the home field, and so that was the culmination of an awesome season for those kids, and we made the playoffs. Of course, you draw the state champion in the first round. I mean, we drew Galena, and they went on to win the whole thing that year. But we had a great game over there, and so, those kids, they were an awesome start to a lot of success there at Forston.
Yeah. You guys put up a pretty good fight against them as well, right?
We did. Yeah, we did. We had them worried there for a while. I can remember and it was snowing. It was cold. I mean, and we were struggling, I want to say mid-third quarter or something like that. And Jeremy DeForge, I mean, bless his heart. I mean, he was a stud, and we were down on the our 3-yard line, and kind of stuck. And I'm thinking, I'm just going to run ISO with DeForge and see what happens. He goes 97 yards, and runs away from all of their kids. It's unbelievable, and such a big play in a game like that. And really revives us on the sidelines. and we go on, score another one, and you can see on their sideline, I mean, they're running around. They've never been in that position before, to be challenged. And they're sure not expecting us. They had played us the first game of the year. And I knew the coaches from Galena from being from Loris College. We were
that's right.
We were only about 15 miles apart, so we had a lot of their kids over to visit and things like that. And I remember that first game, I walked up to their coaches and I said, hey, take it easy on us. They were ranked in the state. I'm not sure that they were number one at that point, but they were highly ranked in the state and expected to do well. Mm-hmm. And here we are just starting out, and I'm not sure. I know we've got some talent, but I'm not sure that we can do anything with it. That first game, and they kind of laugh and they beat us by 3 touchdowns or something like that in that opening game, and they took it easy on us, no doubt about it. And then we see them in the playoffs, and we kind of got them on the ropes a little bit, and they eventually, they were really a good football team, and they kind of wore us down a little bit and won it in the end. But it was really cool to see. See our kids get revived like that and really start going after them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that the progress over the course of one football season too, that's incredible. Right. That's how you can't ask for more as a coach, right?
No, I mean, that was something. In fact, I can remember the day it was 2001. I think we went to the semis, and of course the IHSA has a football clinic, and they're calling me up and they want me to speak and things like that. And I remember telling the guy, and maybe it was just me being a little bit of a prick, but hopefully I can say that.
Totally.
But I remember saying to the guy, I says, where were you guys back in '97? I said, I said, I had plenty to say back then, here we are in the semifinals, and that's great. And this is a great team and everything else. But you should be calling the coaches that turn things, mm-hmm. and so maybe I don't know. I probably made some enemies at that point, but that's okay.
Yeah, that happens. It's
yes,
if you take a stance on something. Right, you're bound to make some enemies, and so if you have 0, it's not a good sign.
True.
Galena had their whole field's like a bowl, right? Is it?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
I can remember watching it and driving home. That's about all I remember. I was pretty young, obviously, but
right.
And I'm getting pretty old, as we talked about beforehand. So
yeah, you got a long ways to go, Jake.
Well, I hope so. One other thing before I get too far deep, I wanted to point out, thanks to my clients, Anthony and Tawina, for this awesome LED light behind me. It's a cool little backdrop for our podcast, so I appreciate that. I wanted to give you guys a shout out while I was on here. Let's next thing I want to kind of talk about is what do you think that makes football special from other, I would say probably other American sports? I know how I think of it, but I'm interested to hear what you think.
I think football, of course, it's the ultimate team sport. Mm-hmm. You can look at any level of football. It doesn't matter. Every team is going to have some better players than others, but it's that weakest guy out there on the field that really dictates what goes on. And the great thing about football is the good teams, the better players are going to make those other players better and bring them along.
As opposed to other sports, sometimes it's better players make themselves better.
Correct.
And diminish others' lights.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. And when you go out there, football is such a physical sport. And I know they've tried to diminish that here in the last few years, especially at the higher levels and things like that. But it's such a physical sport, and be able to go out there and to bleed and to sweat with your buddies. I mean, there's nothing better than that. I mean, that's the great thing about the game of football, and it's such a simple sport. Really is. I mean, you can make it as complicated as you want, but it doesn't have to be to be successful. You can be as simple as you want on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively, and kids can play. Everybody looks at the physical size of a kid. Well, this kid's too small to play football. I don't believe that at all. That it is strictly heart that's going to carry that kid out there on the field. It doesn't matter size. It doesn't matter speed. I would rather have an average athlete that knows the game a little bit and put him out there on the field than the superstar that it can jump and run and everything else, but is never in the right place at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the difference between being successful and not.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I think when I think of Coach Wood quotes, and this, maybe I'm wrong, but I think of smash mouth football. Is that
yes?
That's one
talked about it all the time. Yeah. And my philosophy was that you had to be able to run the football, and you had to be able to stop the run. If you could do those two things, you could play with anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it doesn't mean that you're going to win all the games and things like that, but you have to be able to win that battle. And we're talking about the physical battle, and you can call it smash mouth or whatever you want to, but that's the old schoolness in me, and I carried it all the way through. And basically that was the reason that I got out of football, when I did, because the work ethic and the attitude of the kids had changed, and I wasn't willing to change along with it.
Yep.
Right. I had enough.
Yep.
I had 33 years of coaching. I figured that was enough at that point. I didn't need to change any of my beliefs, any of the things that I wanted to do. And maybe that's a little bit selfish. But I knew it was time to get out, and so I did.
Yeah. And when you say smash mouth football, for the people listening, can you explain what you mean by that?
Yeah. Winning the physical battle. I mean, up front, you think you hear the old adage all the time, they didn't win the battle up front. Mm-hmm. And so you're talking between the offensive and defensive linemen. If you're on the offensive side of the ball and your offensive line isn't winning, you're going to have a tough time. Yeah. Whether you want to throw the ball or whether you want to run the ball, it's going to be hard to do either one. And then I think you can truly dominate a game just by your ability to be physical. Mm-hmm. That carries an awful lot of weight when you're able to hit well and do it safely, but just demolish the other player. Yeah. I'm sorry. I love those big hits, mm-hmm. and that carries a lot of weight. And if you take one of those big hits, that stays in your head a little bit, and you take it back to the huddle or you take it back to the sideline, you think, holy cow, yep. Those guys are really physical. And I think the most physical team is going to win the ball games most of the time, yeah. Not all the time, but most of the time. And so that's the old smash mouth adage that you want to talk about. And I tried to preach that to all my teams.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the idea is that, you're going to basically, even if you don't, make a big play early on, over time, you're going to wear down the other team.
Correct.
Right. And a big play will present itself, or it may be just a bunch of solid plays over time.
We had, and probably more so at Forreston than any other place that I'd been, because they were just tough kids. You know what I'm saying? You guys were hard-nosed kids, and they always brag about that, the Northern Illinois being more physical than what Southern Illinois is. And I think that's true, as I found that out as I tried to move a little bit south in my coaching career into some warm weather, and whether it's about 0 outside right now. So I didn't succeed in doing that, but yeah, I can remember the best compliments that other coaches would give me about our teams, and especially at Forest, and they were relentless.
Mm-hmm.
And they, you know what I'm saying? And we had good kids, and they just kept at it. They, you know what I'm saying? They
Mm-hmm.
just wouldn't let the other team breathe. And that was a true mark of the Forest teams.
Yeah. And that's kind of a, I don't know if you'd say inherent thing, but definitely a mindset thing, because we didn't have any wrestling programs that taught you to, kind of build that physical toughness through that or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
It was just unwillingness to relent.
We tried.
Yeah.
We tried. We did. I did several times, but you weren't going to battle the basketball mentality. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They didn't want anything competing with basketball during that season. So
yeah, it's tough when you got a small school like that, and
yes,
you're
no doubt.
Then you start fighting over athletes, and
Right.
It's strange up here in Rockford, because they have a million sports,
Right.
And even the smaller private schools have a lot of sports, which makes it that then they have to kind of fight over athletes a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
you kind of have to pick which programs will be successful and which ones might struggle a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
That leads me into another question, which is ideally, if you could have if you were building a football culture, what sports would you have to supplement the a football player?
Well, number one would be wrestling. I mean, that teaches the kids toughness.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember wrestling back when I was in high school, and I would have loved to be able to get wrestling there at Forest, and that would have really helped us along the way. And then, but not only the toughness part of it, but you got to have some speed in the game of football to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
And so track would be one of those other sports that would be important. And I always talk to our kids about running track. I didn't enjoy track as a person, as an athlete, and so I understood when they didn't and things like that. But and it was always good that if they didn't compete in track, then they were in the weight room with me,
Mm-hmm.
in the spring and things like that. So, but those two sports would be vitally important, I think, to supplement, a football program and make it better.
Yeah. No, I did jiu-jitsu for 6 years, which is
Mm-hmm.
kind of a similar to wrestling, adjacent to it, I guess you'd say.
Correct.
But
yes.
The ability to control somebody else's body would be so valuable in football, and leverage points and everything like that.
Yes.
And then we talked yesterday about it, but yeah, I would love it if track and field was like a strength and conditioning season for all athletes. Learn to run, learn to throw, and then lift weights when you're not competing, right? Or
that'd be awesome. Yeah, that'd be awesome. You get that in place, I'll come back to coach.
Yeah, right. We'll have to figure out a way to do it like Iowa does and switch our baseball season over to
absolutely
summer.
Right. Yes.
Yes. Did you wrestle in high school?
I did.
Oh, really? Dang, I didn't realize that.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Then you played football in college, right? At Lourdes.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And what position did you play?
I was a strong safety.
Okay.
Yeah. High school, I was a fullback and a strong safety. Back then, everybody basically ran a 5-man front, and we put that into place there at Forston. When I first came in, and opponents struggled with that a little bit, but I was a pretty decent player in high school, 1,000-yard rusher, on offense, and team MVP and things like that. And I went on and played at an NAIA school out in Western Iowa, tore up a knee and had a major surgery and never went back.
Okay.
So,
yep.
And I ended up taking a couple of years off and getting married and thinking about Tyler at that point, I guess. And then I walked into Loras College. We were actually in Dubuque, Iowa then. And walked into Loras College and walked in the head coach's office. And I said, hey, I'm interested in coaching. And he snatched me up and made me running backs coach for Loras College. And that was 1985. And I've been coaching football ever since. So till I retired.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I think I'm trying to think, was Justin, I don't know if you can remember this, was Justin a strong safety?
Yeah. He was a strong safety.
Yeah. Interesting. Cool.
Yes.
Well, let's see here. Well, I guess let's go over what was the hardest transition then going from college to high school football.
and I can remember getting that question during the interview process.
Uh-huh.
They were really concerned about me coming from the college level and then be able to adapt to the high school level, especially a small school like Forreston. And to tell you the truth, I had my doubts also. Now, of course, in the interview process, it's not going to be a problem, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I assumed that I would figure it out as I went along. And I can remember a story. We were getting ready that first year. We were getting ready for the preseason scrimmage. I don't even remember what we called it there at Forreston, but red and white game or what?
Black and white or
black and white. I don't know what it was. Anyway,
Pop Bowl too.
Yes, and so I remember we were getting ready for that, and I had a senior offensive lineman that hadn't earned a starting spot yet. Had been a starter the year before. But of course we were running a different offense and, things were different. Mm-hmm. And he was a good kid. I'm not going to name names, but he was a good kid, tough kid. And I knew that he was going to play for us, but I just hadn't made that decision yet, And I was going to wait until after this preseason scrimmage and just to see, if he was going to do it for us. I remember his dad coming on the field, right on the practice field.
Boy.
And at college, you can treat the parents a lot differently than you can at the high school level. I hadn't learned that lesson yet.
Well, and you're a young man at this point too, right?
I was. Yeah. And I was not about to have that parent come walking on my practice field and challenge me at that point. And so I remember I had the other coaches take the kids in and, inside. And I said, we'll have a coaches meeting, as when we get done. And I remember talking to him out there on the field. And I definitely said some things to him that I shouldn't have said. And he was, at that point, I remember back, he was the booster club president.
Oh my gosh.
So here I am, acting like a college coach out there on the field. And I got done. And before I walked back inside, I remember I was thinking to myself, Woody, you should not have done that. I said, that is going to come back on you. You know that. And so I go inside and Coach Hansen was part of the fresh soft staff. He was on our staff. You remember him?
Oh yeah.
And at that point, he was our AD, I think, at that point. And I remember walking in the coaches meeting and I says, Mark, I just made your life awful tough. What'd you do? He looked at me, he says, what'd you do? And I said, I just cussed out the booster club president and threw him off the practice field. So that was probably the biggest conflict that I had, is adjusting to be able to bring the parents in and make them a part of the program.
Mhm.
I mean, that's what you do at the high school level. At the college level, they're completely separate,
Yeah.
But at the high school level, you got to bring the parents in so that you have that support. And so I worked really hard after that, kind of smooth things over a little bit. And I didn't hear a whole lot out of it. And the kid ended up starting and had a good season, But that was the big transition. And then, just the way that I treated the kids out on the practice field, at the college level. I mean, you get in their face and you know what I'm saying? And
anything you want.
talk to them man to man.
Yeah.
Well, but you're not talking to a full grown man now at the high school level. You get some sophomore that you grab a hold of and start yelling at, and he's just a little kid, know. And so I had to teach myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I did a pretty good job of it. I must have done it pretty quick, because I didn't ruin my stay there at Forreston just in the first couple of weeks. So and things settled down, and the kids made fun of me for some of the things that I would say, and I didn't even realize that I was saying things, but and we just had a good old time with it. So it turned out great. I mean, so many fond memories back there that, and even those are fond memories, if you really think about it a little bit. So hopefully that dad forgave me at some point. So
I'm sure he did. The idea of walking onto a field seems crazy to me. That's like walking into somebody's home.
Yes.
Yes. So if you don't come there expecting some pushback, you're crazy. But luckily Coach Hansen had he had a lot of success in his own right, and probably also understood the value of culture and protecting your own domain, I guess you'd say, right?
Yes.
Were you the one who implemented the Thursday night dinners? Was that so? That was probably one of the things you did to bring in the community and make it a community thing, right?
Yes. We had those Thursday night dinners, and my God, did we eat! Holy cow!
Oh, geez, Louise!
I mean, I would always put on weight during the season, because of all the food that the parents would bring in, and oh my gosh, that was awesome. So, but that was important just from the standpoint that I had the parents face to face, had a chance to talk to them, give them some idea of what we were looking at as far as the upcoming game, and kind of put closure on the previous game. And I thought those were highly successful. I did that my entire career. Every place that I was at, I put that in place, and it turned out to be successful.
Yeah, no, that's a really cool concept, and it's another thing that's unique to football because you only have one game a week.
Right.
You can do stuff like that. Whereas other sports, you might not even have one game in a day. You might have two in a day.
Right.
I can remember that coming up and that being kind of a special thing. I still remember going to my brother's more than I remember going to my own.
Mm-hmm.
You're not quite as hungry when it's your own.
You're right.
I feel like.
Yes, you're right.
Not that.
I like the food so much that later on in my career, I implemented breakfast on Saturday morning. So,
Nice.
So we'd have the team meal on Thursday with the parents bringing everything in. And then I had a group of moms that would come in and cook breakfast for us on Saturday morning. So I would always have the team come in. I just wanted to see their faces and make sure that everybody was in one piece,
Yep.
And then we ate breakfast, and then we watched film,
yeah.
and I got them out of there. So, and that turned out, but I just gained more weight. So, but that's all right.
Yeah, that's I actually think we might have done that for like a playoff game
We
Saturday.
did. Yeah, we always had breakfast for our playoff games.
Yeah. Yeah, nice. I just for those who don't know, I played one year of football. I was not a great football player by any means. I did not grace the football field with
Hey,
my presence very much, but
Jake, you're a good kid.
um, let's see here. I guess what was your most pleasant surprise then, switching from college to high school?
Well, your relationship with the kids is a whole different ball game. You know, at the college level, it's more adult, and at the high school level, it's more nurturing. And I guess I like that better than, I'm saying I like the high school situation better, to where you know that you're really helping the kid out,
Mm-hmm.
and you can do some things that can make a difference in their lives much easier than you can at the college level. That is definitely the big difference between high school and college. So
Yeah, there's a little more. I guess once you get to college, it's more about the sport, right?
yes,
And
yes,
there's a lot more lessons in the high school level.
yes, yes, lifelong lessons that I'm sure that some of them learned, whether they were in trouble,
Yeah.
or you know, or whether it was a great victory, or and they scored the winning touchdown. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But those are all lifelong lessons that you can take and use, and hopefully the kids were able to do that.
Yeah.
Well, I know they were, because I still kind of keep track of as many as I can, and it's kind of neat to see the families and the things that they're doing right now. So
Hmm.
it's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Um, what is how do I want to go with this next one? I guess let's start off with what's the most important principles when you're building a new culture.
Well, I mean, number one is work ethic. I think. I mean, you're not going to get anything done if you can't get anything back out of the people that you're trying to coach or teach or whatever.
Hmm.
And so there's got to be a good work ethic there. There's got to be good motivation there. So you have to make sure that they realize that they're working towards something. So ultimately, there's a goal that you are going after, and if you can get that into their mind frame a little bit, a lot of things fall into place. I think just responsibility, respect, those things all come into play along the line. I probably push the respect aspect of things much more than I needed to. But hopefully, that landed where it was supposed to. And I mean, I would catch some pushback in being so hard line the way that I was. But I think somewhere along the line, it helped some kids, maybe some marginal kids, really find their way, and and help guide them along the way a little bit. So
Yeah. No, I think so. I could think of um, we talks about a firm handshake. That was important. That's a sign of respect.
we
I was,
always
I'm,
we always shook hands.
yeah,
Anyway, yep.
yeah. And I was not the best kid. I was kind of a shithead sometimes, but I can't ever remember thinking that you were unfairly hard or anything like that.
Yeah.
That's
Good.
so. I don't know. Maybe some other people had other views on it, but
Oh, I'm sure.
you know, you know,
I'm sure I pissed off my amount. You know what I'm
uh,
saying?
yeah.
Whether it was kids or whether it was colleagues or whatever. So
Well, with enough time, hopefully people see the big picture, right?
correct.
What other than we talked about the handshake, but how do you go about say you get a kid or even a whole team that the work ethic just isn't really, it's not a thing to them. How do you go about building that into them?
Well, again, I mean, I guess you can berate them to the point where they're either going to give up, or they're going to buy in. But of course, that's not going to be successful very often.
Mm-hmm.
Doing something like that. So ultimately, it's got to be they have to see that there's something at the end of the tunnel,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can work them as hard as you want, and it doesn't have to be great success. It doesn't have to be a perfect prize for each individual. But then we go back to the teamwork aspect of the game of football. The goal that we're going for is going to be so much more important to certain kids. The other ones are just going to come along for the ride, just to make sure that their buddies are getting what they're supposed to be getting. I mean, that's the great thing about the sport, and I think you can put that over on any type of experiment you want to do as far as motivating kids. But if you give them something to work for, they will work for you.
Mm-hmm.
And they have to know that you care about them, bottom line. And I'm not so sure that I did that with every team that I had, but I certainly tried. And some you can get to easier than others. and there's some out there that, I mean, I still scratch my head sometimes as far as, what could I have done differently, and we had conversations, when I say we, as far as my coaches and things like that, when we were going through Forreston. I mean, I was there 10 years and we won 73 games there, and that's 10 years. I mean, that's pretty darn good,
Mm-hmm.
and made the playoffs 9 out of the 10 years, but we just couldn't get over the top. And I think I said to you yesterday, I'm so happy for Coach Diddick. He was able to get in that, take over that program, 2 years after I left, and then they got down into 1A, and then their only battle was with Lena.
Yeah.
And they seemed to, go after each other every year, and whoever was going to win that battle was going to be the state champion that year. So, but we talked every year. We would sit and just, we would sit in meetings. We would go over to my garage and open up a cold one and talk about things. We'd be driving to clinics and in the vans, and it would always come up was the mental aspect of Forreston, of our teams. And we really thought that was the area that we weren't good enough in order to win the state championships. And we battled with each other, and we threw things around, threw ideas around, and tried different things. And I just don't know if we ever got there. I certainly wish that we would have been 1A all the way through. I think we would have had some state championships, in those 10 years that I was there. But there's enough difference between 1A and 2A that it's just different. And we still had our battles with Lena.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed like whoever's going to win that battle was going to do, better in the playoffs and stuff like that. But we really fought that mental game. And I always said, I told Coach Diddick, I told the rest of the staff, I says, if we can figure this out, I says, we can do whatever we want to, and we're going to win a ton more games. And I guess I just wasn't able to do that, in the time that I was there. But I again, I give him all the credit in the world for winning those state championships. That's got to be pretty cool to walk in that high school now and see all those trophies,
Yeah.
trophy case. So
Yeah. Well, I know for facts, I've talked to him. Obviously, people who listen to this before know that, but that he credits a lot of his success and a lot of his, I believe he said your professionalism to coaching just started him off on the right foot. He quoted you on, I think one of the big lessons was like, can't be mad if we didn't practice it or something like that. If the kids screw it up, like, well, we didn't practice it. What'd we expect?
right.
But yeah, then another thing I thought of when you were saying that is I think in my high school or my senior year, we lost to, in the regular season, the 1A, 2A, and almost I think we actually beat the team that almost became a 3A state champs,
right.
because didn't Akron win the state, and then Dakota won state, and then EPC went on a run that almost brought them to state as well.
Yeah,
right?
they had some good years in there. Yeah,
and they were 3A.
Yeah. Yes.
So it's getting 73 wins when, I mean, then this is just an average regular year. Like,
yeah,
it, we always, that conference always has a lot of really good people in it.
Oh yeah, unbelievable. Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah, I can remember Coach Diddick coming in. Of course, I hired him. I think that was my second year there, and he was just a youngin' coming out of college.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah. And I gave him that fresh soft program, and man, he took off with that. And I mean, the kids really enjoyed him. So he was a good coach, and I really enjoyed the time with him.
Yeah, no, that's great. So a lot of people listening are probably from Forston. There's a lot of people from my gym listening, but I wanted to touch on, because I'm not sure how getting inducted into the Hall of Fame works, if it's based on the work you've done over the course of your entire career, or if it's specific schools. But I know that most people listening don't realize how successful you were at Lawrenceville and how you turned that program around. I only know because Tyler's told me. So can you tell me about that?
Well, Lawrenceville was really basically in the same shape as Forston was when I went in there. I mean, Forston hadn't won, hadn't had a winning season for I'm not sure how long, before I got there, and we were able to turn that. Lawrenceville was in the same boat. That Forston and Lawrenceville are somewhat the same because they're basketball schools. If you talk about Lawrenceville, everybody talks about the 4 state championships in basketball and things like that. And that's a great thing. You know what I'm saying? They had, and what sold me on Lawrenceville, they had a family here in town that built a multi-million-dollar football facility.
Oh,
I think they spent $2.6 million on a turf field. And so I'm driving down here to the interview, and I'm looking for the football field, and the old high school is way across town from the football field, and I can't find the darn thing. So I've finally asked some directions, and they send me down to where the complex is at. And I get out, and I'm just in awe, and I'm looking at it, and here's this brand new turf field with an 8-lane all-weather track around the outside of it, and bleachers set up, and the concession stand, and locker rooms, and everything else. And I'm thinking, oh my God, here, I mean, Lawrenceville was a small town. I mean, it's bigger than Forston, but I mean, still it's a rural town.
Mm-hmm.
And they had just broken ground on a brand new high school. And so I was able to, my first year, play on turf, and my third year being a brand new high school with, I was able to basically build the weight room the way I wanted to.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so those were things that drew me to Lawrenceville, but they had not had a lot of success. I think their only playoff year was, I want to say 8 or 9 years previous to where I came down here. And we came in and we were playing the Casey Westfields of the world, 1A powerhouse, and it was tough that first year. Now we finished 4-5, which I was ultimately happy with. You know what I'm saying? And,
yeah,
and we actually had, and at that point with the playoffs, they had started adding 5 and 4 teams. And so we actually went into the last game of the year with a chance to make the playoffs, and ended up losing the game in the last couple minutes on a touchdown pass. And I was so mad at the other team, I hired their head coach the next year.
That's awesome.
Yeah, which is kind of a funny story in itself. But so we ended up 4-5 that first year, but the kids had bought in, and I tell you, the weight room was full, and I was able to bring in some other athletes, and I tried to bring in a couple girl groups and things like that, and it just kind of blossomed from there. And we ended up making the playoffs then 4 years in a row. Made second round a couple of years, and the town bought in, and I had great parent support, and we were basically living the dream, And around here they still talk about the Casey win. We went up there and knocked them off at home. And that was like their first loss in 20 some years at home.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so, we had some big wins, had a lot of success, and then, things changed, attitudes changed, and everybody wanted to go to the spread, and they wanted to throw the ball around. And that's not me. That old schoolness, that wasn't me. And so I attempted it. That was about the only way to keep the kids involved, to do that. And I just decided that was not good football for me. And I'd had enough, and so I retired. I think in 17, I think I retired.
Okay. And couple things to make sure that everybody knows all the finer points, because I think Tyler's helped me on this. Did you make it to the semifinals game one year with them?
Not with Lawrenceville.
Not with Lawrenceville?
No,
okay.
second round was as far as we got. Yeah.
Okay. But they had never won a playoff game, right?
Never.
Before you'd taken over.
Yeah, never.
And then I think before you that season you talked about where you went 4-5, was that your first season?
Yes.
The season before, had they only won one game the entire season or something?
Yes.
So just a couple things so people know what kind of turnaround that is. That's a big deal.
Yeah. And I mean, every coach is gonna brag a little bit, but let's take Forreston. I went in there that first year, and I was a pretty good judge of where kids should play. Being in the college level for as long as I was, I thought I was a pretty good judge. And I remember Jeremy DeForge coming in. He says, and I says, "Holy cow, son!" I says, "Good looking boy." I says, "Where did you play last year?" He said, "I was a receiver." I says, "You're not this year." I says, "You're a running back." And of course, he rushes for close to 2,000 yards.
He's a big kid, right?
He was.
Yeah, he's a hoss.
And so I come into Lawrenceville, And I remember getting hired. I don't know, wintertime. I came in the spring, and I would drive down. I was in the Champaign area then, and I would drive the 2 hours down a couple times a week, and make sure that I was in the weight room and things like that, just to talk with the kids and get to know them and everything. And I had this player down here, Tanner Volkman was his name, and he come walking through and shook my hand, and I said, son, I says, where'd you play last year? And he said, receiver. And I said, you're my running back. No, he said, I don't play running back. He said, I play receiver. And I said, well, I said, we'll see about that, And so with the offense that I put in, we went the first 3 games with him at receiver, and I couldn't get him the ball. You know what I'm saying? I just couldn't get him the ball. And we were 0-3. And so I just revamped the whole thing. I shit canned the whole works, put in the bone, and I put Tanner back there at running back and started giving him the ball, and he was 1,000-yard rusher.
Oh man. So you could have made the playoffs that first year.
Week 4. And I remember his grandfather coming in and seeing me during parent teacher conferences. And I was at the old school and in the gym, and I'm just sitting there by myself doing some football stuff and waiting for parents to come in, and stuff like that. He comes walking in and he sits down and he says, what are you doing to my grandson? I said, I'm going to make him a star. And he said, well, we'll see about that,
Oh,
and
boy.
he was pretty happy at the end of the year. You know what I'm saying? I mean, what a great kid, what I'm saying, worked hard, and I just kept feeding him the ball. And so, I mean, that really made a difference in the year. There's no doubt about it. So,
yeah, that's awesome. Well, and for people who don't play football or never played football, once you start, every sport, if you have a team that doesn't have success, it's not super popular to go out for, just because nobody likes losing.
Correct.
But football is unique in that it's like physically punishing to be bad at it too.
Yes, it is.
So to turn a season around like that, it's hard because sometimes the kids are gun shy.
Right.
And I've even noticed with helping out with some schools that some schools try to put in their younger kids, and then they get the shit kicked out of them freshman, sophomore year, and then they don't even want to have anything to do with it.
They don't want anything to do with it, and the mamas don't either.
Yeah,
and then you're really in trouble.
Yeah. So it's harder than most people think, especially in football, and because it requires so many people. It's not doesn't require 5 people like basketball. You get 5 good guys together and you can put up a team.
Right.
Yeah, that's great. That was exactly what I was hoping we get into. Well, I think we went over one of my questions about whether you plan on going back to coaching after retirement. I guess that's a no.
I would say no. I got 3 grandkids down in Houston, Texas area, and kind of looking forward to spending some time with them. So
yeah.
And I thought every once in a while, going back to like a junior pro level, and helping out with the young kids, 4th, 5th grade and things like that. But I don't know. I think I've done my time, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I could see you a couple of years after retirement being a little bored and wanting to shake things up a little bit.
Yeah, maybe.
You never know. It won't interfere with the garage time too much.
No.
It's speaking of which, Dave Radford, I asked him if he had any questions, and his big question was whether he could have a beer in the garage now that he's 40 years older. So
yes, he can. You know how many times I got that question?
I can only imagine.
Yeah. Coach, can I come over and have a beer? No. until you're 21.
Yeah. I think I have, but not with you. I think
No.
I think it's but let's see here. My last question, because I want to wrap things up in an hour. I know you got to get back to work, but can you tell me about what it's like coaching your sons at what ended up being the highest level of sport that they were going to play, and tell me what that was like.
People warned me against that. Other coaches and things like that. And I think in some instances it works, and in others that it doesn't. In my case, it worked for both of my boys, both Tyler and Austin. I mean, it didn't hurt that they were decent players, but we had a great relationship on the field, and off the field. And that's something that I look back on and am so proud of, to have gone through that. And coaches still ask me, how'd you do that? And I can remember telling both Tyler and Austin, I says, there's going to be times out there on that practice field, I'm just going to rip your butt, and you're going to have, you've done nothing wrong. I'm going to use you as an example, and then we'll talk about it at supper after practice. And I can remember doing that with both kids, just to show the other boys that I wasn't, I'm saying I wasn't showing anything toward them that I shouldn't be. And I remember both of them handled it well out there on the field. And then we'd sit down at the supper table, and Tyler looked at me and said, "How come you ripped me?" And I says, what I'm saying? I told you I was going to do that. Yeah, I know, but that was terrible. And I said, "Hey, I love you. I didn't mean it." You know what I'm saying? So it got the message across to the other kids, what I wanted to get across. I said, just do what you always do. I mean, you always play hard and things like that. And so, no, it was a great experience. I absolutely loved it during the process. I can remember, I can remember Tyler being, playing in the playoff game, and Austin being the ball boy on the sideline. And it's just awesome to be able to do what you absolutely love, with the people that you love. And that was a great part of my career. And I just absolutely loved it.
Oh, that's great. I can remember Tyler getting in trouble one time for I believe it was a late hit in polo. I don't know, or polo Milledgeville. I'm not sure. His feet might have left the ground. He might have picked him up a little bit. I'm not sure.
It was at Milledgeville. I can remember that to the day.
Yeah.
Darn near knocked himself out. Doing it.
Yeah, that's funny. It's funny the things you remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was great having Tyler with all his whole career there was at Forreston. I ended up leaving right in the middle of Austin's career, and he did great wherever he was at. We didn't have near the success, his junior and senior year that we would have at Forreston, but that was just one of those things that happened, and I kicked myself in the butt, for that. So I would have loved to seen Austin be able to finish out there at Forreston, but it just wasn't in the cards.
Yeah, no, that's tough. I think Tyler said, was he at 3 different high schools in 4 years?
Right? 3 different high schools in 4 years. And he was all conference at all 3 high schools, and he was all area at all 3 high schools.
Oh, that's something to be said right there.
Yeah. And
That's-
I messed up that whole career.
yeah.
And I should have my ass kicked for that, but that's just things that happen in the coaching profession.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that there's lessons he learned from switching schools that are invaluable, though, right? There's no more being afraid of strangers and stuff like that
Well,
after switching
you
schools
know,
that much.
and the good thing about it, I got 3 grandkids because of that, because he met his wife at the third high school. So
There you go. That's awesome. That's great.
yeah.
All right, last question. I'm looking at these pictures behind you, and
Yes.
I see one forced in picture. I think it looks like the other one above it might be a forced in picture too.
All 3 of them are forced in pictures.
Okay.
So the one on the bottom, and you still see. So this one right here is the semifinal picture.
Okay. The 2001 team.
Yep, the 2001 team. This picture right here is 2001, but it's my Coach of the Year plaque.
Oh, okay.
That I was awarded for that. And then the one up on top here, when we were, I'm not sure exactly what year that is. It's probably 2003 or 2004. Because I'm looking at Tyler's in there, Ben Sasser's in there. So it was toward the end of my reign.
Mm-hmm.
But the Freeport paper, Journal Standard, is that what the name of that paper was up there?
Yep.
Freeport. Anyway, they loved us.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave us a lot of coverage and stuff like that. But they came down and did what they called a Friday Night Lights segment. And featured us, in the practice session and things like that. And that's a picture at the end of practice with me talking to the kids during this Friday Night Lights thing. So pretty cool.
I'm trying to think if Sasser's in there, that it might be 05 or 06.
Yeah, you're right.
It's is Radford in it? Can you see that, or anybody in his grade?
I'm not sure if David's in there or not. But I think you're right about the year. I think I'm sure it's probably 2005 or 2006.
Yeah,
that did that.
That would be, well, I guess technically, our senior year would have been 05, because it's
right.
Football.
Right.
The football season's the year before, right?
I bet that was 5.
Okay.
Sasser would have been a sophomore then, wouldn't he?
Yep. I'm in there somewhere then, probably.
You are. Yep. You are.
Well, cool. Well, this is awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. I hope you enjoyed it.
Jake, I tell you what, I really appreciate you reaching out. A lot of people have with this award and things like that. And I appreciate it so much. I mean, and it's great to talk to you and kind of rehash some of the things that I think about those things all the time. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's Forreston was a part of my life, and I enjoyed it tremendously. And and I can still remember just minute little details that and every once in a while I think about those things, and it always brings a smile to my face. So I really appreciate being on.
Yeah. Well, sorry, you broke up there a little bit, but I think we got most of it. Yeah. Well, we couldn't be, more proud. I couldn't be more proud of you as you being a friend's dad and a coach and everything. And like I told you before we got on, as I went back through it, I didn't even realize how much of my life you were around for, and everything. It's wild to think. It's wild to think how old I'm getting as well. That it could be that many years.
Yes. Time marches on, no doubt about it. So.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, thanks for coming on, and then thanks to everybody who listened. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this and learned some lessons, and we'll see you next week. And never forget, more protein, less bullshit. Thanks, guys.